Hey guys, so last night we had an amazing class on the Academy. We were talking about products. So we have a series where we're going from napkin to production, and I recorded some of it for the next vlog that I'm dropping. But I figured, why not give you guys a glimpse of also Your Haircuts, my feedback, where we consult with barbers and we give them feedback on their haircuts. It's been a while since I put that series on YouTube, so I'm going to put one from our Academy here on YouTube so you guys could see what it's like. Also, because I know you guys like the Your Haircuts, my feedback series, it's just there's a lot more subscribers than there are Academy members, so it's hard to get to everybody if I do it on YouTube. And with that being said, there's still a lot to learn from watching feedback on other haircuts. There's always nuggets in it. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Enjoy the video. Let me know in the comments what you think. All right, guys, let's get started. So these are all the submissions that we got. I did delete some because we only do one submission per person, but we're going to go ahead and start from the top and work our way down. All right. Damn, that's a nice cut. I'm trying to think. I think that if I'm being picky, guys, for me, I'm looking at this right here and I'm thinking to myself, that could be like smoother. That could be tighter. There's still stubble there. I think it was a ball fade. It's not really a blade open. A blade open is more like this area right here. So I would just commit to really balding it out with the shaver. Even though the fade is blurry, there's a nice transition. Because he kept this pretty squared, that allowed him to have the length to keep this as dark as possible. So if you look at the shades, he's got probably the blade open here, probably the one open in this section. This is probably like the two in this section, and then scissor over comb or scissor work here, and you got amazing transition and gradients. But if you could get this like super light, like I'm talking about as light as his forehead, you're gonna get an extra shade of gradients that's gonna make the fade pop even more. But like there's not really much I could critique on. This is a fire cut, man. I'm a little biased. I like sharp lines. I would try to carve the C cup and, you know what I mean? So we have Mark Cantu. All right, there's a couple things here. So it's disconnected, which is fine. For me, the first thing that I personally noticed was this long hair here. I don't know why it's such a small part of the cut, but immediately my attention went straight there because I know if I saw this haircut at a side angle, he's gonna have overlapping hair. The other thing is I can see little tiny like lines in here. You can pretty much see his sections, and a lot of times it's from not spreading out your blend enough. Right here and this right here looks like a section. The reason why I know is because look at this line right here. See that line? So if you're gonna do blade open up to here, you gotta go blade open, 2/3 open, halfway open, quarter open, closed, and you got to get that transition really, really well so that you don't have little dark spots like this. Other than that, dope cut, but those are my critiques for you. All right, Josh faded, got the branding in the background.
Military people, and then how it negatively impacted their bodies. So each of these reports, as he...
All right, so I'm gonna pause it. I'm going to immediately, the top, especially in the ridge area, could use some help. Especially the ridge area, it could use some help. There's too much weight here. If you pulled all this hair, over directed it, and cut right here, did a cutting line right there, all that hair that you over directed and did a cutting line, you didn't create any layers. What you're gonna have is a whole bunch of weight in this area. And that is what's creating this strong ridge that you see here. It's a whole bunch of weight that just ends immediately right there. Sometimes you do clip over comb and you kind of angling it. All you're really doing by doing that is creating layers. What you don't want to do with his hair texture is cut it too squared, because this is the result that you're going to get. You're going to have to cut it 90 degrees or round it. Just cut it shorter in this area. A lot of people don't want to do that because you can see that cowlick kind of wants to jump already. Maybe you don't do it in the back because you don't need to cut this anymore, but you can bevel these corners right here. So this is the top of my hair. If I'm grabbing my hair, instead of going straight up or instead of pulling it all like this and cutting it, I am going to round my fingers a bit and cut 90 degrees there. Cut that corner off so that when it lays, it's more layered, more rounded. So you don't have a whole bunch of weight right there on the ridge. Okay, that's how you fix that issue right there. Now we have Karsha. All right, let's zoom in and let's break this cut down. So it looks like it's gonna be a lower fade. His hair is tight, curly, fine. It's not coarse. If it was coarse, it wouldn't be so light and see-through. He also has a lower density of hair. Now, if his hair was thick, you wouldn't see all this scalp. You can see the initial guideline right in here. It's very distinct. You can see the corner here. Let me just break down the system that I would use. You don't square that guideline off. See how this guideline is squared off like that? You don't do that. You want it to gradually round into the back like that. And then every guideline that you do after that should be symmetrical. When you see texture like this, go with the grain, guys, because going with the grain is gonna keep this area darker. So I would have done a 1 open or a 1 close, depending on how low he wants it. I would knock this out with the grain. I wouldn't debulk this against the grain. You're gonna go clipper close, probably like halfway up with the clipper close to get this as tight as possible in here. Quarter of the way open, then halfway open, and now you got blade all the way open. I'm gonna go 1 guard open. You could go 1 close right underneath, half guard, probably halfway open, closed, and that should be blended. And then here, 1.5 guard, and then clipper all the way open. You're gonna bleed that clipper all the way open into this section. And that blend should be much better. Sid Crisp on Instagram, he just joined. You just came right on time. That's a nice cut. Here's what I would say about it. I'm not gonna say nothing about the design. The design is fire. But I would like you to smoothen these areas out just a little bit. And the way that I would go about it here is I'd go with the grain, 1.5 guard probably, but I'm not just gonna press right on the scalp. I'm going to go in the shape and just boom, just in this area, just smoothen that out. If you can smoothen them out a bit right here at the hairline, I feel like you would get an even nicer looking design because you wouldn't have hair hanging over the line. But the haircut is just fire. Nice blend. Maybe get a little bit tighter just in this area where you can see a subtle line. You guys see that little bit of line right here, right in there. Maybe clean that up just a bit, but fire fade.
But Chris.
Yes, question.
So that bridal ridge area in between the design and the long hair, that's always the hardest part. You said to take it down with going with the grain or like using the corners, or how do you really
No, with the grain. So I would go with the grain. Since that's the shape kind of that's back here, I would keep that shape, but then I would come in with my clipper. And this is the line that I would get with a 1.5 guard. I'd go at it just like that. You don't want puffy curls beneath that line like you see here.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. Good question, bro. All right, let's move on. Sid Chris, thank you for submitting that. We got Q the mobile barber. Okay, it's clean. Let's break this haircut down. Right off the bat, the first thing that I'm noticing, but this is what I was talking about with styling the hair before you line it up. There's a couple reasons why. You don't want to see this disconnection here. You can get a crispy lineup without seeing this disconnection. The problem with this disconnection, especially with people who are lighter in their hairlines, it's going to look like a different color tone. What you see here, all this length right here, you can have all that start here. And what you're gonna do is give your client a fuller looking hairline and still give them that nice, sharp, crispy line. But before you line them up, you have to style their hair, get the hair that should be lifted up with the rest of the hair that should have volume. Any hairs that are straying and kind of laying down, that's what you want to line up. Other thing I would say is when you're doing the ghost line, this is a little too long. You can get away with a blade like halfway open. All right, we got Stephen Towns cuts. All right, let's check it out. All right, let's break down the cut. Look at this shade of color. From about this red line to this red line, it's almost the same shade of color. And then you have from here to here, pretty much the same shade of color. And then you're just bald. You're not spreading your blend out enough. You got to give yourself some space to create a transition. I would maybe even blend down from here. And you could stack your guards from there. 1.5 guard closed, 1 guard open, 1 guard closed, half guard closed, blade open, blade 2/3 of the way, halfway, quarter of the way, all the way closed, you're bald. You're gonna get a much nicer transition by doing that than whatever steps you took here. All right, we have Rasheen the Barber, all right, on Instagram. Oh, he's worth the follow right there. Look at, woof, this look like it's gonna be a blurry. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. I got one immediate thing that stood out to me, and that is this separation right in here. You guys see that, how you can see through the scalp? I'm going to try to finesse that. Maybe the first time I cut his hair, I won't catch it, but the next time, I'm gonna think about that immediately. I'm going to make that the focus point the next time I cut his hair. I'm gonna comb it out really, really well, and I'm just gonna stay away from this area. Even if I do clip over comb here in this area and I keep it squared, okay, what I'll probably do is like put a mental note to stay away from this area. And then when I get in this area, I'm gonna take my time and try to keep this looking as full as possible. The blend is impeccable. It's on point. It's fire. You got a little scraggly hair right here, if I'm being petty. A little scraggly hair right there. Look, zoom in, guys. We are with Arnold now. Let's check it out. All right, so this is a nice cut. Few things. Remember we talked about the fringe, guys. It seems like it's a very common issue with barbers. Anybody remember how we can fix that? Anybody want to answer that one?
Style it up and then line up.
Yep, style it up and then line it up.
What I usually do, if it matters, I usually kind of just use my shears to go over that. Maybe after the haircut's done.
Yeah, you
That
can.
makes
The
sense.
problem is that a week from now, it's going to look like that. In my opinion, you want to think about how the haircut's going to look the next time that they come in your chair. It's not only going to set you apart, your clients are going to notice that.
Basio, I see we're talking about straight hair, right? But mainly sometimes I get clients with curly hairs. I tend to do the edge up, kind of like how that picture is. But yeah, at the same time, you can't really tell since the hair is curly, if that makes sense.
Even with curly hair, you can cut it to a point where it's straight, right? Even with tight, curly, kinky hair, if you got a one open against the grain on the side, the hair is going to look straight. There is a bending point of every hair texture out there. Brooklyn, BK Cuts. All right, cool. Got a semi waiver. So this is what I would say about this cut. Here's the thing with cutting it too short in this area. See that, guys? That area? You could definitely see through the hair, especially because of that is where the round of the head is. You might get little holes in there where you can see the scalp, especially with this texture of hair. There's nothing wrong with this, but if you're going to do this in this area, then the fade needs to go up a little bit higher. And the reason why it needs to go up a little bit higher is because now what's happening is it looks like this is an accident because the shade of color from here to here is exactly the same. And then you're starting to have that gradients, that fade happen way down here. If this was a high fade, it would look great, but it's not. So what I would consider doing, let's say this is a 1.5 with the grain. You gotta do that 1.5 with the grain all the way down here. When you get into this corner area, you probably have to go to a 1 close with the grain and then start the fade, bald, halfway, 1 open, blah, 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 into the here. But I think that's important with this type of cut. The next time I cut his hair, I'm gonna be careful in this area. I'm gonna try to keep, if this was a 1.5 with the grain, for example, I'm gonna go to a number 2 just in this section with the grain. Number 2 with the section with the grain. And if it's a little too curly, a little too fuzzy, then I'll freehand it with my shears or freehand it with my trimmers or my clippers. And the only reason why I'm gonna freehand it with my trimmers or my clippers are to get any of those scraggly hairs. Cool. That's a dope cut, BK.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. You got any other questions since you're on?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a question, but it was more of what you were saying. Like, whenever he comes in to get a cut, he always asks for a 1.5. So I always take the top to a 1.5. It wouldn't allow me to upload the other picture, which was the other side of his head. So he has like 2 different, his grain is different on both of his sides. Like one side is real wavy and it goes straight forward, and then the other side is like static.
Consider doing this too then, because it does look like his hair growth pattern a little bit different. Like you could see kind of like a little bit of a difference in hair growth pattern there. Consider doing a number 2. So like a 1.5 from here up, right? From this line up. And then in this area, consider doing a number 2. After you do the fade and everything, and you go to freehand it to get all the fuzzies out, right? Then you'll be able to get this a little bit smoother, but at least it'll be just as dark as this area.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Like these are things that I would do for my clients, not even tell them. They just think they have a 1.5. And then they go to somebody else who gives them a 1.5 in this area. They don't know about these imperfections. And then they're like, yo, I gotta go back to my barber. All right, we are going to Julio. Let's check out Julio. All right, man, these are the toughest lineups. Look at that baby hairline, bro.
With that guache cut, bro.
Yeah. It's tough to do a fade like this on someone who has such a tight hairline. Not saying it doesn't look good. It's just
I just feel like if maybe he didn't do the C cup, it would have been straight. Maybe
it would have been better. I agree. If he didn't do the C cup, if he completely balded this out, then at least you can give the illusion that it's just, faded out and you don't really know where that C cup starts. Because it would then look like maybe the C cup starts down here, but it's faded out. So I agree with that. The C cup throws it off. All right, guys.
Cool,
Thank y'all for being on the live, man.
All right, boss. Yo, stay safe.
Thank you, guys.
Cuddy, you need to drop another YouTube video, bro.
Woo, I just dropped one today. Shot one yesterday too.
Did you? Oh,
Yesterday, the day before.
Lacking.
Been working, baby.